Hello everyone, and welcome to this Smalland video about the 15 things I wish I knew before I started playing the game. This video will focus on the first few hours of the game, but some of these tips can be used throughout your entire playthrough. Smalland is an action-adventure indie RPG currently in early access, and though the game seems to be made around multiplayer, it's very doable in single player, in normal mode, if you have played survival games before. If not, here are some tips that might be helpful if you are new to the survival genre. Number 1. You should always keep an eye on your stamina bar. Managing your stamina is vital to your success. Everything costs stamina in this game. Dodge rolling, blocking, running, jumping, sliding, gliding, and using your weapons, of course, will also all cost stamina. Some cost more than others. For example, hammers usually cost a little bit more than, for example, a sword. And using the bow will, of course, keep draining your stamina as long as you're aiming for your target. Sometimes it's better to keep your distance from an enemy instead of just keep hammering them with your weapons. Because if you're low on stamina and you have to dodge an attack or you have to block an attack and you don't have stamina, then you won't be able to do it, and that will most likely result in your death. Number 2, something else that will definitely help you in combat in this game. Always have at least one of each 3 damage type weapons. And even if you have all those 3 damage type weapons, I highly recommend you to also get at least a simple bow, because certain creatures will take more or less damage from certain type weapons. Some beetles have a resistance to pierce damage, so using a spear or a bow and arrow, which causes pierce damage, will be very effective against them, while some other beetles might, for example, have a weakness to your hammer, to blunt damage, and usually have a weakness to slash damage, or edged, as it's called in this game. And even though the bow might not always be super effective, it is a great way to deal a little bit of damage before the enemy gets close to you. Number 3. How do I know what weapon type to use? Using antenna mode, the V key on default, this lets you see nearby enemies, their name, weaknesses, resistances, and not only that, but antenna mode will also show you different resources that are nearby. So I highly recommend using that one before engaging an enemy, and then use one of the 3 damage type weapons that we discussed earlier, so that you can do the most amount of damage to that creature and have more chance of surviving this encounter. Number 4, this one has nothing to do with fighting, but everything to do with resource gathering. In the beginning, when I started playing the game, I did not know this. I just used the interaction button to gather materials like fiber from the little springs, and I just mashed my button trying to pick every single item up, until after many of hours I finally found out, thanks to somebody in a live chat, that I could hold the interaction button for some sort of an auto pickup instead. So it will automatically pick up everything around your character, around where you're aiming, for a certain radius, which is so much better. Number 5. Always make sure you keep your food bar up as well, as it will give you a slight health regen. Number 6, your gear, weapons, armor, it all degrades over time the more you use it. But if you have a workbench with you, you can use that to repair. So always make sure you have the right materials for a workbench on you, so that you have no trouble dealing damage to your enemies. Number 7, if you do have that workbench on you, you can repair as often as you want, and with 0 resource costs, all your gear as soon as it's necessary. If you wait too long to repair your gear, then it will start costing you more and more resources. It will never be as much as the original cost for the item, so don't worry about that, but it will start costing you more and more resources the further down the durability of your item is. Number 8. When you get a storm warning, Quickly build yourself a foundation as high above the ground as possible. This will allow you to just wait underneath it until the storm passes, so make sure you always have those materials on you just in case. Another weather and season related tip, number 9. If you get too cold, you can start losing your health. Be sure to make at least one set of high cold resistance armor or some good cold resistance food, as surviving the winter without it will be extremely tough. Once your character is too cold or starts freezing, you will lose health, and obviously that is not good when you're trying to fight some creatures. Number 10. You can climb a lot of the terrain, branches, mushrooms, etc. in this game, so use that to your advantage. That being said though, you sadly cannot walk or jump on grass or leaves, like for example in the game Grounded, where you can easily jump on top of grass or certain leaves. In this game that will not be possible. Also, don't try to swim in the game. Swimming is not possible at all. You will basically almost instantly die. And when you are climbing high up into a tree or something, don't fall down, as fall damage is quite high in this game. So be very careful when doing that. Number 11. Using your jumping and climbing skills, you can make your way up to the top of one of the many massive trees and use the top of the tree as a base. Once unlocked at the top, you can call an air balloon to bring you up and down to or from the tree. Number 12. Another tree-based tip. Once you made your base on top of one of these trees, you can very easily go to another one of the massive trees in the map, and you can talk to the statue close to the ground, claim it, and transfer your entire base to this different tree. Yes, you can teleport your entire base to the other side of the map if you want to, without having to rebuild your entire base in another location. This is of course extremely helpful, as you don't have to keep building separate bases in different locations, but instead you can just use the trees and make one big base. Number 13. You can place map markers anywhere and write down important locations, items, enemy spawns, etc. For example, I recommend using the map markers to write down where all these massive trees are, as it can be a little bit hard to see on the map where they are located. So place a marker on every single one of these trees that you find, so you can easily find the nearest big tree in case you quickly need to get away from something, or need to find shelter from, for example, a storm. Number 14. It is always a good idea to have some torch materials with you as well, in case you might be gone from your base for a long time. Nighttime can be extremely tough, as you can barely see anything. If you don't have a torch with you, perhaps the antenna mode might be helpful as well. At the very least, you will be able to avoid those enemies. Number 15. There is a fallen tree somewhere in the middle of the map around the river with a ton of mushrooms on it that you can easily gather if you have a hatchet for some really easy food source early on. Not only early on, but you can use this of course throughout your entire playthrough whenever you are in need of some simple food. If you're having trouble making the better food items in the game, then this is definitely a good replacement for it. Alright, those are all the tips that I have for you today. Hopefully this video was helpful to you all. If it was, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe on your way out for more gaming live streams, tips and tricks, and other guides.